Hello, and welcome back to the studio. I'm Dr. Wiggo, and today we're going to be talking about all the things that Apple introduced the first week of March. While I was off gallivanting around Texas, Apple was busy announcing stuff. I'm going to run through them in the same order that Apple announced them. On Monday, they announced the M4 iPad Air and iPhone 17e. On Tuesday, the Studio Display and the Studio Display XDR, the M5 Pro and M5 Max processors. Those look pretty cool. And then, of course, the new MacBook Pros with the M5 Pro and M5 Max processors in them, plus the M5 MacBook Air. And on Wednesday, they announced the MacBook Neo, and that's the star of the show. And we'll be getting to it in just a minute. And then after that, I'll tell you my take on all of these announcements. Well, let's get right down to it. So Apple's first press release on Monday was about the M4 iPad Air. It's just a spec bump. It's the same $599 for the 11-inch model and $799 for the 13-inch model, but it has an M4 processor, which is 30% faster than the M3 and 2.3 times faster than the M1. They compare everything to the M1 because those are the people they're trying to get upgrade. Nobody who has an M3 iPad Air is going to upgrade to the M4. The M4 iPad Air comes with 12 gigabytes of unified memory, 120 gigabytes per second bandwidth, versus 8 gigabytes and 100 gigabytes per second bandwidth for the M3. They also come with Apple's N1 chip, so they get Wi-Fi 7 and a Bluetooth 6, whereas the M3 iPad Air had Wi-Fi 6E and Bluetooth 5.3. And it comes with the new C1X chip, which is 50% faster and 30% more power efficient. So this is a pretty decent spec bump. Their second press release on Monday was for the iPhone 17e, which is a very decent spec bump from the 16e. It's still $599. The A19 processor replaces the A18 and the iPhone 16e, and they replaced the C1 modem in the 16e with the C1X, which is faster and better. They upgraded the base storage to 256 gigabytes. They added MagSafe. They came up with a new pink color and Ceramic Shield 2, and they didn't upgrade the price. So with the 17e, you're getting double the storage of the 16e for the same price, plus MagSafe and Ceramic Shield 2. Then on Tuesday, they announced the Studio Display for $1599. It's a 27-inch monitor, 5K resolution, 600 nits of brightness. It has a 12-megapixel ultra-wide camera with center stage, a 6-speaker sound system, spatial audio, and Hey Siri. Only a 60 hertz refresh rate, which is not very good for a monitor in 2026. A tilt-adjustable stand, and it will pass through 96-watt charging, 2 Thunderbolt 5 ports, 2 USB-C ports, and an A19 chip to run the camera and the speakers and all the other stuff. But $1599 for a 60 hertz monitor in 2026? Yeah, I don't know. But in the same press release, they announced the Studio Display XDR for $3299. Ouch. 27 inches, again, 5K, but now it's 1,000 nits SDR and 2,000 nits HDR, and it's a mini LED display with 2,304 dimming zones, which is amazing, and so you won't get any blooming or all that. The blacks will look better, and 120 hertz ProMotion refresh rate, which all monitors in 2026 should have. It has the tilt and height adjustable stand, which does not cost $1,000 like it did on the Studio Display XDR Pro. Supports 120 watt charging, has 2 Thunderbolt 5 ports, 2 USB-C ports, has an A19 Pro chip for running the cameras and all the stuff. It has all the same stuff as the other one. And they added the DICOM medical imaging mode to this one so that radiologists can look at x-rays and stuff right on it without any extra software or anything. That's how they'll sell them for $3299. But the big news on Tuesday was they introduced the M5 Pro and M5 Max chips. They had announced the M5 and put it in a MacBook Pro a while back. And the big news with these chips is they've gone to a new fusion architecture where instead of one giant die, they do 2 dies that they stack on top of each other into a single system on chip. Something AMD's been doing on their chips over on the PC side. So they have a CPU, a scalable GPU, a media engine, unified memory controller, neural engine, and Thunderbolt 5 support all on these 2 chips. And one of those dies is the GPU die, so they can change the number of cores in the GPU without having to worry about the CPU. So it improves their yields, I think something like 59%. That's a lot. It's a new 18-core CPU architecture with 6 super cores, the world's fastest CPU core. Okay, so this is some marketing hype, but kinda not really. The problem is everybody's been comparing Apple's CPUs to Intel and AMD CPUs and saying, well, performance cores and efficiency cores. But Apple's performance cores are more capable than the performance cores on Intel and AMD. And Apple's efficiency cores have more performance than the ones on AMD and Intel. So Apple's calling them power efficient performance cores. So we have 6 super cores and 12 performance cores, which used to be called efficiency cores. You get the idea. It's up to 30% faster for pro workloads than the M4, and it has up to a 40-core GPU with a neural accelerator in each GPU, which makes it up to 4 times faster for AI than the M4. Big improvement, especially since so many people are buying Apple Silicon to run AI models. 35% faster ray tracing than the M4. And the M5 Max will let you go up to 128 gigabytes of unified memory with 614 gigabytes per second bandwidth. That's the fastest memory bandwidth Apple has ever achieved. But the whole purpose of these processors is to go into the new MacBook Pros. So we have new MacBook Pros with the M5 Pro and the M5 Max. And these MacBook Pros are real improvements, not just processor ones. They have up to 2 times faster SSDs, up to 14.5 gigabytes per second. And they start at 1 terabyte on the M5 Pro and 2 terabytes on the M5 Max. So you get a whole lot more storage and much faster storage than you did on the previous generation. The M5 Pro MacBook Pro starts at $2199 for a 15-core CPU, 16-core GPU, 24 gigabytes of memory, and 1 terabyte of storage. Not bad. For $200, you can upgrade to an 18-core CPU with a 20-core GPU, which then lets you upgrade for $400 to 48 gigabytes of memory. And for $400, you can upgrade to a 2 terabyte SSD, or for $1,000, 4 terabytes. I know we've talked so many times about how outrageous Apple's upgrade prices are, but with the RAM shortage and RAM prices skyrocketing and SSD prices skyrocketing, they don't look so bad anymore. Now, the M5 Max MacBook Pro starts at $3599 for an 18-core CPU with 32-core GPU, 36 gigabytes of memory, and 2 terabytes of storage. And here they get you again. So for $300, you can upgrade to an 18-core CPU with a 40-core GPU, but that's required to do the $200 upgrade to 64 gigabytes of memory or the $1,000 upgrade to 128 gigabytes of memory. $1,000. I know it seems like a lot, but again, with RAM prices the way they're going, it's not as unreasonable as it was a year ago. And you can then also upgrade for $600 to a 4 terabyte SSD or $1,800 for an 8 terabyte SSD. Okay, I really can't excuse that one, but... And the final announcement on Tuesday was the M5 MacBook Air. So for $1099, the M4 MacBook Air was $999. Hold on a second. So $1099 for the 13-inch, 10-core CPU, 8-core GPU, 16 gigabytes of memory, 512 gigabyte SSD with no upgrades. That's right, you have to go up to the $1199 13-inch, 10-core CPU, 10-core GPU with 16 gigabytes of memory and 512 gigabyte SSD. But now they'll let you upgrade. So for $200, you can go up to 24 gigabytes of memory. For $400, you can go up to 32 gigabytes of memory. For $200, you can upgrade your SSD to 1 terabyte. For $600 to 2 terabytes, and $1,200 to 4 terabytes. I know it's ridiculous, but it's getting that way on the PC side too, because the AI companies are sucking up all the memory chips and SSDs. Now, Wednesday was the big day because they introduced the MacBook Neo. I think this is a game changer. We'll talk about that in my take in a minute. Everyone was expecting the new cheap MacBook to be like plastic, but no, it's an aluminum enclosure and it comes in colors: blush, indigo, silver, and a new color called citrus. They're very pretty, don't you think? It has a 13-inch Retina display, 2408 by 1506, 60 hertz. Again, no excuse in 2026. 500 nits of brightness, sRGB color space, not P3. For web browsing, that's fine, but if you're doing like color correction and photo stuff, well, this isn't going to be the computer for you. And it has an anti-reflective coating, which is pretty cool. It has the A18 Pro chip. That's right, it's got an iPhone chip. Because of the low power draw, it's going to have a 16-hour battery life and still be 50% faster than the Intel Core Ultra 5 that's in most similarly priced laptops on the PC side. You'll have a 1080p FaceTime camera, dual mics, a dual side-firing speakers, not up on top of the keyboard like all the other MacBooks, with spatial audio, a Magic Keyboard, but with no backlight, and a multi-touch trackpad, but no force touch. It'll just be a mechanical click. It'll come with 8 gigabytes of memory with 60 gigabytes per second bandwidth. It was 10 times that on the M5 Max. A 256 gigabyte SSD and Mac OS 26 Tahoe. But the big news is this is all for $599. And $499 is the education price. So if you're a student going to college, you can buy a MacBook for $599. No, wait. $499 is the education price. Students can buy this MacBook for $500. Unbelievable. Now there's also a $100 upgrade version, $699, where it upgrades the SSD to 512 gigabytes and adds Touch ID. The cheap one, no Touch ID, you're going to have to type your password every time, which includes for things like Apple Pay and everything. If you're getting one of these, you'll probably want to pay that extra $100. But again, for students, that'll make it $599, which is the same as everybody else pays for the base model. It's going to weigh 2.7 pounds, which is about the same as a MacBook Air. 36.5 watt-hour battery, which is a small battery, but that'll still give you 11 to 16 hours of charge. 16 hours if you're web browsing, 11 hours if you're streaming video. It has 2 USB-C ports, but only one of them is USB-C 3, the 10 gigabits per second, and DisplayPort 1.4, which will support a single display at 4K 60 Hz. If you're buying the MacBook Neo, you're probably not going to use an external display, but if you do, you can have one at 4K 60 Hz. The other USB-C port is USB-C 2, 480 megabits per second. But both of them will charge, so you can use the slow part for charging and then the faster port for having a monitor or external SSDs or whatever else you're doing. It only supports 20 watt charging, so there's no fast charging. Comes with Wi-Fi 6E and Bluetooth 6. And there's no fan because it's a phone chip, it doesn't get that hot. So what's my take on all this? Well, the M4 iPad Air is a decent spec bump, but again, if you have an M3 or M2 iPad Air, it's probably not worth upgrading. But if you're in the market for an iPad Air, well, it's only $100 more. The iPhone 17e is a very serviceable entry-level phone at $599. The 256 gigabytes of storage, MagSafe, and the Ceramic Shield 2 almost makes it a no-brainer. What about these displays? You know me, I have a 48-inch OLED 120 Hz monitor. Video on it, link down below. So these are not for me. And the $1599 one is 60 Hz. And the XDR is very pricey at $32.99. Radiologists might buy it for that imaging thing, but that seems like a lot of money. The M5 Max and M5 Pro processors look really good, and with this fusion architecture, with the stacked dies, the sky's the limit. And these are on the 3 nanometer process, and the M6 is going to be on the 2 nanometer process. So if they do the same thing on the M6, I mean, they're going to be able to really squeeze a lot of stuff in there and get high yields, which will bring the prices down. The new MacBook Pros with the larger and faster SSDs are a decent deal. My MacBook Pro is an M3 Max, and I don't see any reason I'd want to upgrade, not at these prices. Now, the rumor is the M6 MacBook Pros are going to be a redesign and new screens and maybe the tandem OLED and all that stuff. And those are rumored to come out in the fall, so those are the ones I'll be looking at maybe upgrading to. The M5 MacBook Air is fine. It's fine. But I think the MacBook Neo is a game changer. I think this is going to vastly expand Apple's market share. I think the PC makers should be quaking in their boots. The MacBook Neo with the A19 is still faster than most cheap laptops that have the Intel processors in them. They should be afraid. Linus on Linus Tech Tips did a video about the M processors, and he said that the PC makers had 5 problems. M1, M2, M3, M4, M5. And now with these new M5s, and even the MacBook Neo, which isn't even an M, it's an A, they may be in for a world of hurt. If Apple gets back into the education game and sells these at even lower prices in bulk to schools, it could be that every kid in the future will have a MacBook. I think MacBook Neo is the game changer, and that's why they saved it for last and did it by itself on Wednesday. And guess what we're going to do next week? I will be unboxing my MacBook Neo because I ordered one. Come back next week and you watch me play with a MacBook Neo. I don't think it's really for me, but I want to play with it, I want to see it, I want to look at it. Join me next week for that. So that's it for today. Thanks for stopping by. See you next time. Bye-bye. Now I just gotta wait for my MacBook Neo to arrive. Thanks for staying to the end. Bye-bye.